Well, hello everyone. Hope you're doing well today. What I wanted to do is take just a little bit of time to walk through the FRQs and make sure people sort of understand what's being asked of them for the test. So on test day, you're going to be given one of these three FRQs to write. Ballpark is usually around 18 minutes or so to complete that portion of the test. And again, it'll be weighted for half the value of your test. So whatever you do on multiple choice, that'll make up half the weight of your test, and then this FRQ will be worth half the weight. So the goal is to get to 10 points. All right. So let's look at the first FRQ. Proteins, large complex molecules, are building blocks for all living organisms. Discuss in detail the following in relation to proteins. So for part A, describe the chemical composition of proteins. So you could talk about what atoms make up proteins, what the monomers are, what the polymers are, the types of bonds that hold them together, that kind of stuff. Discuss atoms and amino acids and the four levels of structure of proteins. So primary structure, what's that? Secondary structure, what's going on to create that? Tertiary structure, what's important about tertiary structure, and when do we have quaternary structure? So again, hopefully that's pretty straightforward. Part B, describe the roles of DNA and RNA in protein synthesis. So what's DNA used to do? What's RNA used to do? And then for the third part, part C, design a simple experiment to test the relationship between a protein's shape and its function. Describe your variables, independent, dependent variable, your control group, and the constants for the experiments, as well as what you would expect to have happen. How would you indicate what's occurring? So a good example for this would just be the Jello and detergent lab that you did. So the reason we did that experiment was to basically set you up for this FRQ. So just make sure your variables are set, and that should be hopefully a good one for you. Okay, FRQ2. Discuss the biological importance of each of the following organic compounds in relation to its cellular structure and function in plants and animals. So this is stuff that's basically taken from part of the Chapter 5 lecture. So Section A, discuss the structural and functional biological relevance of carbohydrates. So how are carbs used structurally in organisms, and how are carbs functionally important to organisms? You can use examples in plants and or animals. Again, the goal is to just get to 3 points, right? So give a structural relevance, get a functional relevance, and then give an example of how it's used in plants or animals. For B, same deal. Structural and functional biological relevance of proteins. Structurally, what do proteins do for organisms? Functionally, how are proteins important? And again, you can use examples, specific examples from plants and animals. C, discuss the structural and functional biological relevance of lipids. So, structurally, how are lipids valuable to plants? Structurally, how are lipids important to animals? Functionally, what can lipids do for plants? And functionally, what can lipids do for animals? And then finally, we got a one-pointer to finish up part D. What's the functional role of nucleic acids in plants and animals? So DNA, RNA, how are they relevant? And then in our last FRQ, hey, we're dealing with water. The unique properties or characteristics of water make life possible on Earth. A, explain the role of hydrogen bonds in creating the unique properties of water. So there's a little visual context there in the illustration. So why do hydrogen bonds influence the behavior of water? B, identify, so a point for identify, define, so you get a point to define, and then describe one example of how this property affects the functioning of organisms. So, pick a property of water, name it, define it, and then describe how it impacts life. Same thing for C and D. Okay, so it's basically 3 properties of water, name them, define them, and then describe their biological relevance. And again, you guys did Flipgrid stuff on this, and chapter 3 in your textbook would be really helpful. So please, please, please be over prepared, right? You want to absolutely get 10 out of 10 on this, and just follow the bolded terms. They tell you exactly what to do. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, just make sure you get yourself ready and knock it out of the park on test day. All right, good luck.